Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we fall asleep into dreaming of being there in our favorite Bible stories. Before we begin, you might take a long, slow breath. Let it settle in your chest. The weight of today slipping from your arms, slipping from your shoulders, just a little at a time. All around, the evening draws its soft curtains. The light outside your window is fading, gentle and gray. Maybe you can feel the hush settling across the floorboards. A house at peace, lamplight tucked low, dishes stacked, a bit damp but clean. This isn't a night for doing, only for being. You've arrived right on time at the quiet edge of things. Let your head nestle into the pillow and let your hands grow still. If you're tired, that is holy too. Every yawn is like a prayer somewhere far off. Water is running. You can almost hear it, steady, patient, as if time itself could slow and flow beside you. Imagine cool fingers smoothing a cloth, folding it along the seam. Nothing needs to be perfect here. Not you, not the story, not tonight. You don't have to learn or remember, only to listen. These aren't sermons. They're stories retold slowly, so your body can rest and your soul can come home to God every night. We return together, not to find answers, but to remember the soft things we almost forgot. The sound of a river, the hush just before sleep, the feeling of being close even if you are alone. If you close your eyes now, you might notice the gentle press of sheets on your legs. The air is quiet, easy to breathe. Nothing left to do except listen and be. Tonight, we begin with the morning at the Jordan River. Wait a moment longer. Let your heart find its own quiet beat. Even the house sighs, as if drawing near to what is holy. You might hear the last bird for tonight, or the sound of something being put away in another room. Even in the old days, people closed their houses like this, closing a shutter, straightening a rug, touching someone's arm for just a moment. These are stories for those who work and those who wait. He asked for nothing and still felt full. And so we go together, not as teachers, not as heroes, but as people who stand just nearby, quietly watching, breathing in the slow, sacred air. This video was made to help you drift to sleep while drawing near to something holy. You're welcome to listen, or to let the sound of this voice become just another part of the night. There's nothing to miss. Even if you fall asleep before the end, the story will keep walking with you. A good story never needs to be finished. It just keeps you company as you lay down your day. Tonight, as the world goes quiet and you find yourself half awake, half dreaming, let the night be a blanket. Let the story settle into your breath. You don't have to listen closely. Just let it be. The world begins before you open your eyes. It's quiet under the linen, layers soft and loose, gathered around shoulders and knees. If you listen, there's a trace of coolness in the air, like the river left its breath hanging over the ground. Sometimes you let that cold language wash over your face. Other times you draw the cloth closer, holding night a little longer. There's no hurry, not here. The hush outside is gentle, unwound. If you pause, you can sense how light slowly pours itself through every crack. At first not enough to see, just enough to know it's beginning again. Your body sinks deeper, a little longer, breathing in the silence, chest rising like the hill outside town. The air smells faint and earthy, as if stone and dust have their own quiet breath. Every inhale is patient. Every exhale is an invitation to stay a moment more. There is nothing you must do yet, and that is safe. Let this morning stretch, let the world unfold slowly as your senses wake to it. The reed mat beneath you is rough but familiar. Your palm slides gently as you roll to one side. Dusk gathers there, thin as a whisper, waiting on the floor. No one notices dust, but it's always the first one to arrive, settling when no one else is awake. In the distance, the river sings its slow, endless hymn, not loud enough for words, just a promise, just a pattern. Every morning you hear it before you see it. Some mornings it's far and soft, a memory under your pillow. Today it's closer, cool and low and true. The sound moves with the air, like a mother's hand stroking your hair so gently you almost miss it. The coolness in the air finds its way between layers of linen. Still, you lie there, breathing, arms tucked in. You are not alone in the silence. Other homes wake up as you do, but out of sight, each wrapped in their own hush, their own hope for the day. Someone stirs at the edge of your hearing, maybe just a quiet cough or the hush of someone shifting blankets. Even this silence is holy. You notice sandals waiting by the door. At night, you left them lined up carefully, one beside the other. They feel patient as if they've been resting too, leather soft with use, dust from yesterday brushed but never fully gone. You remember the way their straps hold the shape of your days, the same way morning light fits the sill, slow and golden and sure. Walking will come later. For now, your feet stay warm beneath the woven cloth, toes curled in gratitude for rest. The room holds its own early shadows. Light peeks through the woven window, nudging everything awake but not asking for much. You listen. Above your own soft breathing, the hush is broken by small, ordinary sounds. Someone's foot press against clay, the sudden shift of a vessel, a yawn reaching through thin walls. Farther off, you inhale and almost taste the gentle ghost of bread baking. Faint, floury, still becoming itself. Somewhere, a neighbor is already up, tending to coals just past the edge of light. The air is cooler near the floor, warmed only by breaths and bodies. You close your eyes again, not to return to sleep, but because the pause is sacred. Even the bread waits, even the dust listens. Each sound in the house is slow and careful. Cloth settles. The day's water sloshes in a jar by the door. When you sit, knees draw up to chest, head bowed to the simple wool wrap, breathing in, breathing out like the bellows of something ancient and gentle. A bird outside tries a note and then stops. The first call is not always the loudest. Closer to the river, the voices of geese float above the water, low, unhurried, steady. You remember that there will be fish to eat, maybe figs if the market is busy. The hope is small and soft, just one finger tapping the edge of expectation. You rest in it, letting the idea rise and fade like bread rising unseen. Each breath is a ritual, a long exhale just for now. The dawn does not hurry you. No one asks for words or for faith or for hope. This moment does not belong to anyone, not to prophets or kings, not even to you. It just is. Let the room hold you. Let the dust settle. Let sleep's edge linger even as the new day arrives. You notice your arms bare in the cool, rising goosebumps where sun has not yet touched, still safe, still here. You rub hands together softly, the sound a comfort to yourself and no one else. There is peace in being unnoticed. Someone somewhere mutters a small prayer, half awake, half hope. No one notices the prayer, but it is heard. You think of water, of the river you'll cross later, of the way it smooths stones and carries stories, of John who came before most were willing to listen, of Jesus whose name is whispered, never shouted. But for now the holy things are far away, their footsteps slow, distant as the dove that may someday settle on the water. All that matters is the air, and the sound, and the breathing that keeps you tethered to both. Surrender to it. The morning is enough. Let this silence be holy. The day need not rush. The Lord is near, even now as the river sings, dusk gathers, and bread finds its way through dawn. It all starts when the morning is still cool and most of the world is only just waking, if it's awake at all. I am already up, careful not to bump the pottery by the doorway. There are quiet footsteps outside, nothing urgent. The sound of a broom somewhere, not mine. It's time for bread. Dough waits in the clay bowl tucked under cloth through the night. There's nothing holy about the flour, nothing precious. It's just what we have. We press the dough, my hands, my mother's hands, all hands before us, pressing, turning, folding. The motion is familiar, slower than thoughts. Sometimes I catch myself in the memory of it. Sometimes I forget I am doing it at all. This morning, nothing is different. It smells a little sweet under the cloth. Someone laughs outside. I flatten the dough gently, not rushing, not even speaking. There's patience in the way bread begins. My fingertips pick up dust from the flour. Every press, every slow turn is the same as yesterday. That's not a disappointment, it's security. There is something safe in the sameness. Listen, the quiet. It's not silent, just restful. Wood smoke hangs near the hearth, the kind that whispers to your senses, not the kind that bites your eyes. The fire is not hurried either. It waits with me. I smooth the dough again and again. It's not ready yet. Nothing about bread is quick. The dough rests. The little bubbles inside begin their silent, invisible work. I sit and watch, working nothing, just waiting. It's a different kind of work. Sometimes all you can do is let things rise on their own time. Be still and let this moment stretch. I notice the way morning sneaks in through the doorway, as slow as bread itself. It lifts the color of things barely. I count the breaths between the fire's crackles. Someone stirs outside, lifting another tarp, tending to goats. The world moves at the speed of dough. Even this silence is holy. When the dough has risen, not too much, just enough, I turn it out and pat it flat. My hands press it down with care, but nothing is hurried. I had a thought earlier, but it's faded away. There's only the dough. There is bread in my hands and the echo of all the hands before me. Every press is a small, honest prayer, even if no one says anything out loud. The round of dough lands on the warm stone just as it does every day. I wait, listening, smelling. Time lingers. Some mornings the little ones ask for honey, impatient, but today no one asks. There is only the calm, the way the air shimmers above the stone, and the soft patience of bread becoming itself. I turn the flatbread very gently so nothing tears. My hands know the weight of it without thinking. Outside, weeds brush the walls and a dove calls once, twice, then nothing. Even the birds respect the hush of baking. When bread puffs and the edges curl, I smile a little. There is no hurry to eat. The first piece is always warm, and the steam carries the story of morning, softening the edges of tiredness. I press the next round of dough, exactly the same as before. Fold, press, turn. Sometimes my jaw aches from silence, but it never aches from bread. At the edge of the yard, someone begins sweeping. It's a friendly, ordinary sound. Everything that happens here is slow and still loved. I hear the wood crackle again. The dough rises while I wait, and I've stopped wondering how long it will take, as long as it needs. When it's ready, I settle it onto the hearth. The heat is steady, never fierce. It's the kind of warmth that stays with you after the fire is gone. Let this ordinary moment stretch. A neighbor walks by carrying water. We nod but don't speak. No one interrupts bread. There's enough to share if anyone asks, enough to wait. Nothing feels scarce this morning. The smell of grain and smoke fills the room, quiet and full. I think of the river not far away, where John stood in water up to his knees, where everyone waited just as they do for bread. That hush, the listening, patience is all that is asked and all that is needed. I move the finished loaves onto a cloth, stacking them gently. Hands press, hands wait, hands offer. That's how it's always been. No one notices the prayer, but still it is heard. I sit by the warm stones, pressing dough again and again, and the world feels whole. The gentleness of being here, not doing much, is enough. You can rest. You can let the fire wait for you. The day will move as slowly as bread, and that is a blessing. Even if I drift, nodding over the hearth, the bread will be ready. Nothing in this room is wasted. Not silence, not waiting, not hunger. Let your heart be as patient as bread. Let your breath rise and fall with the quiet of morning. Let the sound of hands pressing dough be your prayer tonight. The night listens with you. God is near, slow, ordinary, unhurried. Always. There's a quiet heaviness to a clay jar when it's empty. It rests against your hip, swaying with each slow footfall. Before the sun rises, before birds begin their singing, I start to walk step, step, each beat pressing softly into the still, cool dust. You can count your breaths this way. People move like shadows at this hour. No one talks yet. The road to the river is worn smooth by years of feet, sandals creaking in the humid dark. Step, hush, step, hush. The only sound is the river ahead and the gentle pulse of my own breathing. In, out, jar on my side, fingers curled around the handle, not hurrying, not quite awake. Sometimes the air is so quiet that even the heart slows down. There is comfort there, as if the silence remembers you. A space to just be, nothing urgent to fix, no errand more important than these measured footsteps. Step, step, let the morning spool itself out. We don't speak as we pass one another. Sometimes an old man nods or a child hums softly, but most of us are lost in our own rhythm, footsteps, breath, silence. The road stretches on, bending with the slope of the valley. My feet know every stone, every hollow, every patch of wild herb that leans across the path. Even this, I think, is prayer. Rivers don't rush at dawn. They move like someone just waking, slow and soft, water folding over water. When I kneel to fill my jar, the surface trembles with tiny ripples, pressing coolness into my hands. I close my eyes. Another breath. The earth holds its silence. Overhead, distant voices, no words, just the echo of people gathered further along the shore, waiting like I am. In, out, water lifting into the jar, weight shifting into my arms. The morning is thick with newness, the kind that doesn't ask for anything loud or important. Just this. Measured movements, the hush between actions, waiting for the light to change. I stand, the jar heavy now, pressing against my hip as I begin the long walk home. The sun is starting to take the chill from the air. My sandals brush at the path. Step, pause, breathing slows. Time stretches out thin and golden. Even the birds wait, perched quiet on the reeds. Carrying water is not a task to finish, just a shape to live inside. Every step reminds me thirst comes quietly, and so does the answer. A river, ajar, a single silent walk, nothing asked. Everything given, let this moment stretch, even this silence is holy. The night listens with you, no one rushes in the morning by the river. The sun is up, but it hides behind low clouds, gentle and gray. Light falls across the water. The surface is slow, barely moving, just enough to make the pebbles shift, to make it seem alive but safe. It's the kind of morning where you take your time tying your sandals, where you walk steady. Breathing matches each step. You know you'll get there, so there is no need to hurry. People gather along the muddy edge. There are more each day. They keep their voices low, as if the world has changed just enough to make all speech a kind of whisper. You hear them, the gentle hum, before you see their faces, like the hum of bees in late summer, sounding close but never loud. Words slip past without needing answers. Questions, greetings, the everyday talk of neighbors. Small talk thickens the air, safe as warm bread. No one is a stranger. Not today. At the river, you see old men sitting on flat stones. Their sandals are off, feet in the mud. Mothers rock quiet babies, their eyes scanning the sky between stories. Older children stand hand in hand, too shy to splash, but eager to be close to what is happening. Some people came only for the water. Some came because they heard about the preacher. Some only because someone else asked them not to stay home. The river carries every sound, turning it soft as reeds in a wind too gentle to trouble them. The voices come in and out, first a laugh, then a hush, now a song, almost lost from a group of girls washing cloth at the edge. You stand back just enough to see, not enough to be known. It feels honest to stay quiet, to listen. The world is made of murmurs this morning. A man argues gently about the price of eggs. Another tells about a neighbor's sick child. Nothing urgent. No one expects solutions near water like this. Troubles get lighter here, mixed with the current, carried away in the eddy of the crowd. Someone kneels and cups water, wiping dirt from their hands. The water goes dark and then clear. Shirt sleeves get rolled. The splash is a heartbeat, a steady underline to all the talking. Birds call, not the bright kind. Just small brown birds skipping over rocks, unfazed by so many feet in their world. Above all, the river keeps humming. That's what you hear. That's what everyone hears, even if no one speaks of it. The river is the old friend nobody needs to name. Let this moment stretch. You watch the preacher in the distance. He is silent. The only motion is his hand, steady above the ripples, ready to rest or to raise. He doesn't call out. Not yet. He lets the crowd settle, makes room for whatever needs to come next. A few people say prayers under their breath. The words do not travel far. No one notices, but they are heard. Children, restless, poke at floating sticks. A baby starts to fuss. Its mother rocks in motion that matches the water, easy and slow. Others dip claws, bringing cold, shining drops to dusty faces. Nothing changes quickly, not here. The reeds on the edge become part of the soundscape, moving just a little in the breeze, just like people shifting their weight as they wait. Sometimes you hear the sigh of grass under a heel. Sometimes you hear a cough swallowed quickly so as not to disturb. You realize you are breathing along with these people. Every inhale is met by another's exhale. Every sound is answered by silence. There is room for everyone's quietness here. Let your breath slow with theirs. You see someone passing out flatbread. Edges are torn off, handed around. No one asks who baked it. It is enough that it is there. Warmth shared is never wasted. No one is hungry in a crowd like this, not because everyone has enough, but because sharing is a kind of fullness. The preacher's shadow falls across the shallows. Children go quiet. Their eyes are wide but not afraid. A question drifts through the air. Should the next step be taken? Or is it wholly enough just to be near the water? A man sits, arms folded, waiting for no one in particular. You hear the steady tap of his heel on a stone, a rhythm plain as any prayer. Let this plainness hold you. It is easy to imagine that the water always ran here, that the voices always drifted like this, that the crowd was always gentle, just slow movement and small kindnesses. Maybe heaven comes closer when people are quiet together. No one notices the clouds moving. No one worries about the sun breaking through. Someone says, "It will be a good day for washing." That is enough, as if the rest is not for saying. A distant cry of a bird calls everyone's eyes upward for a moment, but the moment doesn't last. Everyone drifts back into their waiting, into their own steady silence. This is how time passes on holy days that look like every other day. Even this silence is holy. You think for a moment that you could stay here forever. That peace is this: standing among people who need nothing more than the sound of one another's voices carried softly by the water. Let it settle into your breath. The morning was already old when I wandered down to the water. The river moved slow, carrying specks of gold light across its skin. On the shore, old Eli sat with his nets, legs stretched in front of him, back curved as if he'd been made by years of bending over rope. Every day he sat in this same spot, always mending, never counting how many repairs were left to do. His hands were the first thing I noticed, knuckles split, skin browned by the sun, moving in small, tired circles. He didn't rush, he never did. Between his fingers, thin cords of twine slipped and twisted, sometimes catching just right, sometimes knotting in little puzzles only he could undo. I sat on a stone nearby, close enough to see but not so close he'd feel watched. He glanced up, then back down, his eyes gentler than his voice would ever be. No one spoke. Not even the birds. The river seemed to hush while the nets were being repaired. Eli tugged at the torn edge, tugging softly, testing the weak spots. "You can't force it," he'd once told me weeks ago. "You just keep moving a little tighter, a little smoother." So he moved, threading the twine through tiny gaps, drawing the mesh together with patient sighs. His shirt was patched twice on one shoulder, frayed at the cuffs. Sometimes his breath grew slow and deep, almost in rhythm with the water. The whole day poured itself into those small, careful gestures. Twine scratched softly against his palm. When he pulled it taut with both hands, it made that little sound, like sand sliding over stone. I watched the pattern grow, row by row, knot by knot. Nothing quick, nothing clever, just quiet repair. Sometimes a piece of reed from the water would stick to the net. Eli would pluck it off, brush his thumb over the spot, and go back to work. I wondered if mending was like breathing, something the body just learned to do when things began to break. A shadow moved across us. Someone passed by, then left again. Nobody hurried near the nets. It was a slow-whirled Eli built on the shore, a place where holes got found and fixed, never hidden or ignored. He paused now and then to stretch his shoulders, roll his neck, look up at the sky. Those moments were long and tired, and they gave me room to rest as well. My own hands, empty, itched to learn this simple patience. The gentle, repetitive gestures, the safety in being busy without pressure. The air started to grow warm. Flies hovered, then drifted off, bored by our stillness. Occasionally, Eli's lips parted in a little hum, barely music, just breath and memory, wrapped around the day. All the while, the river kept its slow, even song. I found my own breathing matched it, each inhale like the river's pull, each exhale like letting go. Let this moment stretch. Even this silence is holy. The night listens with you. Eli held the mended net up to the sun, found another tiny tear just there and began again. There was no rush. Every stitch mattered, even if no one would see it the next day. Some holes closed quietly, some took a little longer. He asked for nothing and still felt full. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. It was easy then to believe wholeness hid in these plain afternoons, held together by knots and patience, woven softly between the hush of water and the work of gentle hands. We just kept breathing, and the mending kept on, slow and sure, as if there would always be time for things to be made whole again. Someone had pulled a reed mat to the broadest patch under the fig tree. It was warm in the sun, but here the leaves kept the day cool and quiet. Two of us sat, knees drawn up, each with a small cloth bundle resting in our laps. Figs, dark and soft, waiting for our hands. Neither of us in a hurry. Sometimes words slowed to nothing. The hush sat heavier than the heat. I watched how he picked one fig at a time, thumb tracing the curve, then gently easing it open. The fruit inside looked like a secret, shining quietly. We ate silent, breathing in the honey air. Every bite was slow, almost sleepy. Nothing to rush through. This was just what the morning needed next. The sweetness filled my mouth. I chewed and swallowed. Chewed, and it was as if the day stretched a little longer in the shade. We listened to the river's low music and the sounds of others gathering stones further downstream. It was all background, the world moving softly behind our stillness. He handed me another fig, no words, just a small smile. That was enough. I pressed the fruit between my fingers, its skin thin as dusk. I ate with gratefulness, not needing to say anything. Sometimes silence is the simplest kind of prayer. We shared what we brought. Half a small loaf, a handful of olives. He offered, I answered, and the meal passed between us in slow, careful hands. The shade wrapped around us like new linen. On the ground, the sunlight flickered and danced in patterns. A breeze came, gentle, touching hair and cheek. I heard the slow chewing beside me and felt a soft comfort. There was no reason to fill the hush. Here was companionship, ordinary and whole. After a while, words returned, small things. "Your feet dusty?" he asked. I nodded. "All morning. The river helps." He smiled again, eyes nearly shut in the comfort of shade. Birds flickered above us, hunting for crumbs. Each movement was easy. I watched his shoulders soften, then looked at my own hands sticky with fig juice. We chewed, rested, and the world kept on across the water. Another fig, another pause. We ate until we were full, still slow. He asked for nothing, and still felt full. Even this silence is holy. Let this moment stretch. The night listens with you. There is a long table tucked in the shade behind the old wall. Stone holds the sun at a distance, and the only noise is the gentle breathing of leaves and the small movements of someone working just beyond morning. A scribe sits alone. His hands are quiet, never hurried. Sometimes I watch from the walkway, not because I expect anything to happen, but because the way his brush meets the parchment is peaceful, like a hush you can see. The ink is thick in its little bowl. It shines, waiting. He breathes out, dips the brush, and begins again. I don't read the words. I only see their shapes, long and curling, slow as wind over the water. Each line settles on the scroll before him. There is nothing to rush. The scribe does not look up, not to see who passes, not to check the sky. He steadies the parchment with one hand, then lifts the brush with the other. He asks for nothing and still feels full. Let this moment stretch. When the brush touches the page, I try to match his breath. In, out, the point moves, leaving behind signals only he understands. Once a drop of ink fell just beside the scroll, and the scribe pressed his finger into the wet spot, leaving a tiny print like a seal. He smiled softly, more for the mark than for anyone nearby. There are ways the light finds its way into this cool space. I watch dust drift down in slow, golden lines. No one else seems to notice. I wonder if the words feel the sunlight, or if the ink dries a little faster when the rays move across the table. Even this silence is holy. Once or twice a bird lands on the roof. Its feet scratch above the stone and the scribe glances up, only for a moment as if to greet it. Then back to the brush, to the waiting scroll. I try to slow my own movements. Breathing becomes the rhythm of the work. Inhale as the brush lifts. Exhale as it meets the parchment. Sometimes my eyelids grow heavy as I watch the shapes take form. The scribe turns each finished section quietly, maintaining the careful strip of clean parchment at the edge. Paper moves very little. There is reverence just in the folding of corners, never hurried, never creased. Let yourself rest in this hush. A shallow dish of water sits nearby for rinsing the brush. Sometimes he leans back, rolls his shoulders, then dips the tip until dark swirls dissolve and the water clouds. He presses the damp strands between his thumb and finger until the brush tapers again, sharp and ready. The scribe doesn't talk. Few people come close. The sound of water slipping over the stone basin is soft enough that I can forget there's a village beyond these walls. The sun isn't high yet. Shade pools on the path and some old pigeons coo in the rafters. I think about those scrolls, all the ones copied and left rolled up on shelves. I think about hands that might touch them one day, not seeing how much waiting and breath and care are in every mark. Let calm move in your chest. By midday, a light breeze picks up. Dry leaves scuttle beneath the wall and the table stays cool. The scribe stands, stretches his arms, and then settles down again, checking for wrinkles or crumbs. He flattens the parchment, not because anyone watches, but because keeping the words safe matters more than anything happening beyond this table. No one speaks. There is quiet reverence just for being close to this slow, small work. Most of the day, all around, people hurry. There are baskets to fill, water to carry, arguments to settle. But here, under the shade, nothing needs to happen right away. When the scribe dips his brush, each movement is like a prayer I cannot hear. Even the birds quiet down. It is enough to witness. The steady hands, the flow of ink, the gentle weight of parchment unrolling. I find myself blinking slower. The cool from the stones rises a little. Sometimes my mind drifts, not to anything big, but to how the world holds its breath between moments. The scribe finishes a line, breathes long and low, and begins again without announcement. The night listens with you. There won't be stories about these hours. No one will remember the way the sunlight slipped beneath the table or the gentle print of a fingertip in the ink. But the words stay at their own pace, honest, simple, weighty. I do not read them. I do not need to. Let yourself drift here, where presence is enough, where scripture is cared for, not because of what it promises, but because someone loves it line by careful line just for being here. Feet move slowly in sandals that have taken on the shape of their owner, soft leather, worn smooth at the heel. The edge of the day is behind us now, sunlight tipping over the hills. It's warmer but not yet hot. There's a hush to the morning, like the world knows what's coming but doesn't need to say it out loud. The air near the river always feels different, heavier maybe, with the promise of coolness. When you walk slowly, every step stretches out and every pebble makes itself known underfoot. Not painful, just a reminder that you're real, you're here, flesh and bone and tired from yesterday. People walk with you, but not together. Some walk quietly, one behind another, eyes down, footsteps matching the beat of the earth. The dust is pale, clinging to your ankles, not enough to bother with, just enough to notice. It's the kind of dust you carry home, not the kind you shake off. Someone's robe brushes against wild grasses and stirs a small cloud by the path. There are reeds, tall and gentle, nodding in the faint breeze. They creak if you listen, a soft old sound, each stalk bowing then standing again. Birds sit hidden among them, watching but quiet. Everything is quiet, as if honoring the path. Your breath slows to match your steps. A long inhale as a flat stone presses beneath your soul, a long exhale as you step forward, adjusting your balance. There's no hurry. The day will not come faster than it wants to. The water waits just as it has every morning before this one. Now and then, someone's sandal slips a little, scattering stones down toward the reeds. The small noise is answered by a splash in the distance, a fish or a frog, as if the simple acts of walking and breathing are prayers in themselves. You remember the stories, but today they do not drive you forward. Today is just about moving slowly toward the river. Pause here. Let the body remember how it feels to stand and to let the sun warm your shoulders, to hear the skin shift under old, familiar clothes. Even the crowd feels gentle. No one jostles, no one shouts. Voices are quiet if they speak at all. The only loud thing is the thought inside your head that maybe, just maybe, something holy is near. A boy ahead of you runs for a moment, his laughter rising up and fading. Even that sound feels safe, as if the world here bends to keep it sacred. You watch where you place your feet, stepping around a flat patch where the reeds are flattened from yesterday's visitors. It's ordinary, this walking, but it becomes something more when repeated, step after quiet step. The river unveils itself slowly, just through the green. It's not as wide as you remember, not noisy or full of spectacle. The surface is almost still. Only a silver thread moves at the center, pulling along the morning light, breathing in the sleepy promise of noon. The banks are lined with more reeds, tangled roots reaching toward the shallows, stones glistening in the places that haven't yet warmed. You pause again, letting the ordinary hush settle in your body. The sounds you notice now are quieter than your thoughts, your own breathing, the steady movement of someone further ahead, the distant song of a single bird trying out its voice. Even this silence is holy. There's the flat rock, familiar from other mornings, pressed down where travelers sometimes sit just to rest their feet before stepping into the water. If you look closely, you see marks, small, shallow grooves from earlier sandals, forgotten a day after they were made. Nothing dramatic happened there, just people coming, pausing, and moving on. Still, the stone remembers. A woman with a scarf tied at the neck kneels at the water's edge, dipping a cloth. The splash is quiet. She wrings it out and folds it, slow, wiping her eyes not from grief, but from sunlight washing away the dust. You notice her hands steady and peaceful as she lingers a while, not eager to rise. Let this moment stretch back up the bank. There are baskets on the ground, heavy with bread and figs. Someone opens one, lifting a piece, offering it to a neighbor without words. He asked for nothing and still felt full. You wonder if anyone remembers the story of manna raining down here so many lifetimes ago, if this simple sharing feels like a verse repeating itself quietly day after day. The shadows move as the sun shifts again, warming the reeds, brightening the stones, pooling light in the water. You stand, feeling the dust at your ankles now cooled by the river air. In the soft muddiness near the edge, tiny prints, bird, mouse, the splay of someone else's foot, mark the story of others who came for reasons their own. Even the river doesn't hurry. Its voice is constant but never loud. It carries bits of stories, small leaves and twigs drifting past. Every so often the breeze picks up and the reeds sing a little, a faint melody you could almost hum. If you close your eyes, the whole world narrows to this rhythm. Water, stone, reed, silence, breath. You look around at the others, noticing sameness, creases at the edges of eyes, hands clasped, sandals trailing dust. A young man stands at the farthest edge, alone, gazing past the river as if listening for something only he can hear. No one disturbs him. His presence feels ordinary and necessary, just part of the landscape. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. The crowd grows slowly, the line deepening in a gentle arc. Some people sit, some cross their legs or lean back on their arms. The air fills with anticipation, but not with impatience. It's as if everyone already knows. What is holy doesn't shout, it settles like dust gently on every heart. Let this moment stretch. Even if you drift somewhere else, the river keeps moving, the reeds keep swaying, the sun keeps climbing. There is nothing more to do and nothing more to say. Just be here in the hush, breathing, noticing, waiting for the center of the day to open when something quiet and true might reveal itself, not as a flash or a sound, but as peace growing inside you quietly, with every slow breath beside the river. The night listens with you. Even now, God draws near, and it is enough. I came early to the river, long before most had wandered down from their stone houses and slanted fields. The sky was pale and nearly empty, just one thin thread of cloud stretching over the hills. My feet found the path by memory, the flat reeds folding softly under my sandals. Each step felt cooler in the shadow, dew soaking into the edge of my robe. Nothing here hurried. A grasshopper clung to a blade, legs drawn close, quiet and hidden. It let me pass, or it simply didn't mind. Farther ahead, a cluster of white moths drifted between the tall grasses, folding and unfolding their wings as if breathing along with the dawn. I sat on my haunches by the water's edge, not close enough to hear John speak, not far enough to miss his voice completely. The current drifted steady, making smooth shapes around the rocks. A stick floated past, trailing a tiny wake and spinning when it met a whirlpool near the bank. Crowds gathered slowly, all kinds of people, from gray-haired women with baskets to children with unruly curls, to wandering tradesmen tying their animals to crooked trees. Some waited in line to talk with John, but most just hovered near enough to see. I watched their feet more than their faces, some planted firm in the mud, some shifting in the dust. Shoes scraped tiny rounds into the earth. Behind me, insects buzzed in the reeds, their humming so constant I only noticed it when they stopped for a heartbeat. The wind here never speaks loudly. Sometimes it just nudges the tall grasses, making them bow and spring back like a slow sigh. The shadows from the reeds painted thin bars across the water, silver and gray. Let this moment stretch. A woman sat nearby with a cloth bag on her lap, hands resting, eyes soft. She didn't pray out loud, just pressed her thumb along the stitching of her bag. A boy tugged at her sleeve and she barely shook her head, a silent answer that felt more loving than words. I liked to stay in the half-shadow, where mud met dry earth, a little world apart from the main crowd. No one told me to move closer, but no one asked me to leave. I scooped up a handful of wet soil, feeling the grit under my nails, letting the coolness settle into my palm before dropping it back. My thoughts drifted this way, too, always moving, never hurried. Some spoke softly, but most only listened. The river itself was the loudest thing, a faint, endless song of water brushing against rock, meeting silence and beginning again. Someone toward the front coughed. A sandal slipped and scuffed, breaking the hush for just a moment, but then all sounds settled again. Even this silence is holy. A dragonfly drew low over the ripples, its wings sending quick flashes of green and blue through the morning haze. Its path wasn't straight or certain. Some people looked up, not at it, but at the pale sky behind it, a sky not waiting for anything in particular. I wondered what John would say, but I was too far to catch more than the tone of his words. Sometimes he pointed at the river, sometimes at the sky. Once his hand traced a gentle arc in the air, and a few children copied him, giggling as they did. Even when they tried to be noisy, their joy faded into the wide quiet of the gathering. Breathe with the river. Let your thoughts find the current. A woman moved closer to the water, her movement silent, dress brushing wild mint. The scent lifted around us, sharp, green, calming. Someone somewhere tore a bit of bread. There was the soft crunch, then a bird's call, shrill and brief, chasing its own echo among the reeds. All the while I noticed my own breath slow, shallow, matching the hush around me. My hand pressed flat to the earth, just feeling. Underneath, a beetle crawled along, never finding a straight path, weaving between my fingers. I didn't move out of the way. I let it wander. Nothing here wanted hurrying. There is assurance in the stillness, hidden among the ordinary sounds. A splash, just one. Somewhere someone entered the river, but I did not look. I listened for the ripples as they spread, the faint applause of water nudged by gentle hands and feet. Night lingers behind everything if you look for it. Even in the mid-morning light, I felt a kind of drowsy peace. When the sun peaked above the highest reeds, its warmth slipped across the crowd, and 100 heads seemed to bow, just a little. Not from duty, but because it was so soft, so easy to meet the light that way. Let this quietness hold you. The night listens with you. I never saw a dove, not clearly. But someone near the front gasped softly, and the sound of wings fluttered once, then faded. No one cried out. No one pointed. John may have smiled. Or maybe it was just the way the morning felt, like a gentle hand on your shoulder, telling you that everything already is as it should be. People began to whisper in the hush, lines of hope or questions or nothing at all. Sand shifted, water mused. Someone held a baby and bounced it gently, the motion swaying in time with the reeds. Cotton sleeves brushed against shifts of air as people shifted to see, or just to be closer to each other. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. As the morning stretched, a dog barked somewhere upriver. Its call came dim and lazy over the water, not wanting to chase or scold, just letting its voice travel because there was room here. Somewhere a pot clattered. Somewhere coins jingled in a pouch. Close by an old man hummed, not a song but a tone, smooth and quietly certain. If your eyelids close, let it be the hush of the river that leads you. I sat among reeds longer than I meant. My legs pinned beneath me, warmth soaked into my back, weaving into the still, companionable quiet. I was not needed at the center. Nothing asked me for more than this, just to be here to notice. The world did not change in a breathless instant. It just kept breathing. And so did I. There are mornings when the river seems to forget itself, when all its rushing slows into something softer. The surface holds the sky like a bowl of cool silver. I was there, folding a linen at the edge, away from the others. No one hurried along the bank. Even the reeds hardly moved, only swaying when the smallest breeze remembered to come through. A boy set down his wooden cup, letting the rim drift across the shallow water. Ripples widened, gentle as a sigh, then faded. The reflections settled in again. I could see my own hands creased at the knuckles, still from work. Everything on the riverbank seemed to float above the moving glass, real yet lighter, the way dreams hover at the end of sleep. Let this moment stretch. The water was never silent, but its sounds were softer here. Lapping, always lapping, against mud, against stone, against my ankles as I stepped in, not to be seen, only to rinse a rag. Above, sunlight blinked on the surface and made 1,000 shifting mirrors. Not a single one the same, yet together an unbroken calm. Even this silence is holy. People waited in loose lines. No one spoke much. Cloth was spread out, catching sun, drying slow. I watched the water hold it all, shadows of feet, folds of tunics, satchels set down in the sand. When a bird swooped close, its wings cut into the reflection, but the water closed behind it, no mark left. Things moved and returned. Nothing pushed too hard. I found my breath slipped into the rhythm, in and out like the river, always going, never rushed to be anywhere except here. Let your shoulders sink. With every gentle wave, somewhere farther up, I heard a splash and the low sound of a man's voice, a promise, slow and quiet. I didn't turn to look. The world beyond the surface felt distant, muffled by the hush carried on the water. Here I saw only the way sunlight played on ripples. A child dropped a pebble, watched the circles grow, then fade. The water was patient. It took what was given, let it go, always smoothing out the marks. The night listens with you. An older woman came to fill her clay jar. She crouched, letting her fingers touch the top first, testing the coolness. I saw her mouth move, maybe a prayer or a recipe spoken soft, just for herself. The water heard, keeping quiet. I wondered if some words are braver when spoken into a mirror no one can see through. Breathe slow as the river does. Most people that day didn't see the sky bend open. Most of us missed the dove or the light, but we felt it, I think. The ease in our bones, the surety of how water holds whatever rests upon it. Fears rinsed away like dust caught in folds. There was no hurry, no proving, just a stream, wide and slow, giving back the same quiet it received. Let this stillness find you, in your breath, in your sleep. He asked for nothing, and still felt full. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. The sky has gone deep blue. The last voices drift low under the trees, and I am left folding today's linens in slow, small motions. A line appears where the cloth bends, corners gathered like a secret held in both hands. All day the hush of water stayed with me. Even now, I hear the river somewhere beyond the door, flowing steady, not rushing. I set the lamp aside and smooth a wrinkle from my sleeve. The cool has risen off the tiles, curling around my ankles. Someone's sandals wait by the wall, dust still clinging from the riverbank. There is nothing left to do. The street is dim, quiet shapes moving past with their own thoughts. I glance at the small loaf saved for morning, press my thumb into its softness, and close it again in the cloth. The windows are open to the night. I look out once. The moon is thin and gentle above the roofs. Everything is slow. I breathe deeper. The air is simple and enough. No one calls for me. I sit on the bed's edge, hands resting in my lap, feet tucked underneath. The day's noise has quieted. There is room right now for listening. I pray just a little. Lord, thank you for letting me see today. Stillness gathers around me. It feels like sleep. It feels like someone waiting. I let my eyes drift closed, letting today's story belong to the river, not to me. Stillness holds me. The Lord knows my breath. I am not forgotten. God walks slowly too. Grace is here without asking for anything. It is safe to rest. There's nothing I could miss. I do not need to understand. Love has settled over me. Amen, amen, amen. No one really spoke after the water stilled. A gentle ripple faded out into the morning, threading away from where John and Jesus stood together, feet packed in river sand. Behind them, the line was quiet, a hush that felt heavier than any conversation. Somewhere between clearing a throat and changing the weight on bare, damp feet, I saw it. Not the dove first, but its shadow. It moved across the stones by the edge, the kind of shape you notice when you're folding your tunic over your knee and sunlight slips under an olive branch. I didn't look up right away. The warmth of the sun felt soft on my skin, as if the air itself wanted to hold me, and I thought if I moved, I might break whatever was happening. There was no rush to the moment. The river kept its steady drift, brushing past our ankles. Someone far behind coughed, a small, ordinary sound. The world carried on with its breathing. The shadow passed over John's shoulder, softer than a breeze. You could almost miss it if your eyes were searching for excitement, not quiet. I let myself be still, just for a few breaths, noticing the cool water wrapping my toes. It was the sort of detail you'd forget unless you were tired or maybe longing for peace you didn't know you needed. Above, feathers touched the early light. The dove circled once, twice, then settled in the thick air. It did not cry out, did not demand our attention. The noise in my mind slowed, thinned out like dawn mist. There in the low sky, wings moved without hurry, without anything to prove. It was not only what I saw, but what pressed softly into my chest. The worry I carried about breakfast, about tomorrow, became smaller, as if the water might keep rolling them downstream. I didn't pray in words. No one did. You didn't need to. It was enough to stand there, half shivering, with wet feet and your own uncertain heart, forgetting for a moment whether you were worthy or ready or lost. The air lightened, emptied of fear, filled with something calmer. Peace wasn't a sudden thing like thunder or rain. It moved in quietly, the way dusk comes and you don't notice until you've put down what you were carrying. The dove turned, casting another, briefer shadow, while the sky above us watched open, unworried. I pressed my palm to the water, then to my chest. It felt simple, almost accidental, like saying I'm here without a sound. One breath, then another, letting the world be gentle. Stillness held us. The air knew each of us by name. No one tried to explain. No one hurried to remember. We let peace sit heavy across our shoulders, wings spread softly above. We let ourselves belong to the morning, steady as the water, safe in the hush. The dove's shadow returned to the riverbank, quiet as a folded cloth. The day opened, slow and calm. Stillness holds. The air knows you. Peace is here, even in silence. You do not have to try. You do not have to speak. The water remembers your name. You are not alone. Breathe, stay, rest. The hush at the river settled behind us like a gray morning mist. Even as we turned for home, I could still feel the cool of the water against my ankles. The crowd, quiet now, drifted in different directions, heads bowed, hands brushing their own sleeves, not talking much. 100 sandals pressed slow shapes into the dust. My own feet shuffled too, almost softly, pressing little moons into the drifted sand. The breeze stirred the hem of my tunic. I thought of the sunlight on the river and the way it rippled in broken patterns, almost silver where the reeds bent. Someone coughed behind me, a quiet sound. No one hurried. No one seemed in a rush to reach wherever they were meant to be. We just walked, step after step. The world felt padded like a blanket laid down over the noise of our days. Another footstep, pause, footstep. Another pause. My breath matched the rhythm, in and out, in and out. Some people talked in soft half words, but mostly there were just the sounds of sandals and the distant water. I listened for voices, but the river had quieted even those. There was nothing to carry from this morning except the stillness it left behind. I tried to move slowly, not because I was tired, but because I wanted the hush to last just a bit longer. A sigh slipped out of me, long, easy, the way you let air go after holding it all morning out of habit. My arms felt light, my hands empty. I ran my fingers over the rough edge of my cloak, thinking of how today there was nothing left to do but walk. Sometimes that's all that's needed, to walk, to go where the dust leads. Let the journey home be slow. Let my heart stay quiet. Let the sunlight touch the back of my neck as I move, as if a gentle hand rested there. Every now and then I looked over my shoulder. The crowd behind me grew smaller, groups breaking apart, voices thinning out. Someone waved once, a lazy, half-hearted motion that faded almost before it began. I waved back, but only for a moment. My mind was still at the river. There was something in my chest, not joy exactly, and not sorrow either, just a fullness, like how your lungs feel after a deep, good breath. I carried nothing, but somehow I was not empty. The sky above was wide, and a pale dove moved across it, tracing a white line that lingered after the wings were gone. I didn't mention it to anyone. Most people had already stopped looking up. Step by step, let this rhythm stretch. Every pace was quieter than the last. Every murmured voice grew softer, until finally there was just the silence left. And that was enough. The road home was familiar, but it looked gentler now. The usual stones, the same faded grasses along the path, but each one softened in this hush, as if everything was made easier now. The air seemed to sigh along with me. I tried to listen to it, to the space inside all the quiet, steady things. Nobody carried baskets. Nobody argued about where to turn. The only thing anyone brought away from the river was what they could hold inside themselves. I let out another breath, longer this time, and waited for the dust to settle beneath my feet before stepping forward. Even the goats tethered near the well had lost interest in the returned crowd, their heads tucked over the day's dry straw, not looking up, just breathing in time with the earth. At one bend in the road, I paused. The village rooftops were far off yet, almost blending into the land. The morning would be gone by the time I arrived. That was fine. I took off my sandal, knocked a stone free, slid it back on. The red dirt clung to my heel, warm and almost soft. Another sigh, another slow footstep. Nobody waited for my story. Nobody needed answers. I gave the world nothing and felt full. Stillness came with me, the sort you don't have to explain. I listened to the wind one last time before pressing on, letting the calm fit around me like a clean tunic fresh from the washing line, still sun-warmed, easy on my shoulders. A small child crossed my path chasing her own feet. She glanced at me, smiled softly, and kept moving. Even the tuneless hum she made felt like a prayer. There was no lesson, no reason to hurry, nothing to fix. We all walked the same road, no one ahead, no one left behind. The crowd was gone now, just me in the quiet sun. My breath slowed. I remembered the river, the voice too soft for most to hear, the dove, the sound of water splitting around ankles, and the truth that was spoken not in thunder but in rest. Let this moment stretch, let the hush settle. Even this silence is holy. Even these tired feet are carried. The day fades and home waits ahead, but peace walks with me and stays. The sun was high, but the shadows by the river stayed cool and long. Someone found a scrap of linen and unrolled it beneath a tree. Dust brushed off, corners tugged flat, nothing urgent. No voices rushing anyone on. Shoes slipped off, bent knees quiet in the dirt. I watched as the disciple laid down slowly, sandals waiting close by, cloak bunched for a pillow. He did not say much, just pulled his knees closer and let his eyes shut halfway. In the hush, even the river's noises felt small. A breath came in, then out, then in again like a wave, slow enough to count. I could see his eyelids flutter, opening just a little, blinking at the sky through shade leaves, then closing again, slower this time. The wind was soft, carrying only what the morning had left behind. It brushed the skin of his face, gentle as old cloth. He breathed deep. I heard the same faint birds, the same water, on and on. There was more silence than anything else. He did not fall asleep, not all the way. It was more like floating, a kind of rest that stayed close to waking. Eyes closed, then opened. A stretch, a sigh. Eyes closed again. A bee wandered somewhere nearby. No one moved. The world did not ask him to do anything. He felt the sun's warmth across his feet but kept his eyes shut, letting light fill the dark behind them. Another pause. The river talked in its low voice, washing over stones, same as always. He drifted, not lost but gently anchored. If sleep came, it was quiet, asking nothing, taking nothing away. A sigh, a shift, his hand brushed beside him, feeling the edge of the mat. He let himself rest again, head turned to the side, the smell of earth cool and steady. Eyes opened, just for a moment. Sunlight made a lace pattern on the inside of his arm, then closed again, letting the shade and the heat and the hush blend together. People nearby did not say much either. Someone walked to fill their cup, the slow sound of footsteps on grass. Farther down, a child picked up two smooth pebbles, clacking them quietly together. But the day was stretched out, long and patient, nothing hurried. The rest was not a break from work, it was holy, in its own way. Like a prayer the ground gives back. He did not dream. There were only shapes of leaves above him, the rhythm of breathing, tiny noises of living nearby. He let his eyes open, blinked once, closed them again. The world carried on outside his body, untouched by worry. God was near, in the drift between waking and not. He rolled to his side, bunching his shoulder under the sun-dappled air, cheek against the cloth. Another tiny flicker of opening, warmth, green shade, and then quiet dark, over and over. Rest came in circles, slow as the water's endless folding. No one needed him, not for these few minutes. The hush was a kindness that belonged to everyone. Even me, sitting close by, kept my own eyes soft cast downward, listening without listening, letting the gentle weight of midday hold us both. Another breath, another blink, sometimes sleep, sometimes not. The Lord moved no faster than the river. The shade did its work. Linen unfolded where it belonged. All was still, and that was enough. Some mornings began with the weight of clay in your hands. The bowl curved under my palms, cool and steady. No one chose me for anything important. My family trusted me to carry things that wouldn't break easily, to sit by the door and stir. The room was half shadow, the sun folded into a strip along the floor. I dipped a wooden stick into the pale oil. It moved thick and slow, catching light in quiet ripples. If I tilted the bowl a little, the oil glazed the clay's edge and slipped back with a sound almost too soft to hear. It made a circle inside itself. I liked watching that. Someone hummed halfway across the room. The door breathed a wider rectangle of morning. The air was cut with the faint touch of ground olives and warm dust from yesterday's sandals. No one asked anything of me here. I could just be the one who watched things settle. I set out 3 bowls, 2 that were chipped, one nearly new. It wasn't special. Picking them up was like picking up small stones at the riverbank, cool, perfect enough for their own purpose. My thumb smoothed where the glaze turned rough. I liked that too. Finding each touch was a little different, that not everything had to match. The stick tapped gently on the rim when I let go. The sound wasn't loud, not sharp. Just a note you could almost miss if you were talking or turning your head. The oil, resting now, had a way of shining in an ordinary manner. No miracle, just the slow golden puddle holding the morning. My mother watched from the far wall. She had her own tasks, folding cloth, pinching dough, tending to whatever needed tending. I think she prayed sometimes, every fourth or fifth breath, but you couldn't tell by her face. She just moved slowly, careful not to waste. I stirred the oil a little again. The scent rose up, green and nutty, peaceful if you noticed, but there was nothing to notice. Nothing happened. That was the gift. Sometimes I'd press my finger lightly onto the surface, washing it in the oil before wiping it clean. It made my skin soft. I never said anything about it. It felt like my own secret. Beneath the window, dust swirled in a narrow beam. It drifted slowly, landing on the edge of the bowl and on my sleeve. The light was very thin. Outside, the river kept on moving in its own time, never rushing. You could almost hear it if you wished for it. Some mornings the jar would knock softly against the bowl. I'd straighten both just so. It helped, a kind of order. I think God noticed those little things, not the prayers you spoke, but what stayed quiet in your hands. No one said thank you. No one called me good. Yet the bowls glowed in the ordinary light. The oil was ready when someone needed it. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Let this moment stretch. Let the stillness do the work. Even this silence is holy. The night listens with you. God walks slowly, too. Amen, amen, amen. Somewhere close, children drifted through the lightest shade beneath olive trees. Their small sandals tapped against stone, softer than a prayer. Sunlight rested on their shoulders, and the river watched quietly beside them. Instead of shouting, their laughter slipped out easy, just a handful of giggles here and there. You hear them only if you stop and listen, catching the sound the way you catch wind blowing through reeds. The grown-ups lined the riverbank, water curling around ankles, but the children left their own marks, tiny clouds of dust rising as they ran. No one scolded. The dust meant nothing. It settled on skin, on hems, on the toes of sandals and the backs of hands arranging bread. Everyone let the dust exist, a soft part of the morning, same as the water and the sky. You could tell how safe they felt, not needing to claim the space or fill it up. Their game stayed gentle, as if they also understood somehow. There was someone holy here, but also that the world was safe. Laughter rolled like breath on the breeze, quieter each time, as if it relaxed into stillness, until all you heard was sandals brushing dry ground, a telltale sigh, a single stone kicked just once. Even the river welcomed their little joys. Now and then, a child would toe the water, cool jolts making hands clap to mouths to hide a smile. They never splashed wildly. Everything remained slow, unhurried, as if the baptism itself had changed the air around them, made their happiness soft enough to hold. Parents watched with folded arms, not worried, not especially attentive, just sharing the quiet, letting the children's happiness become background music to the waiting. Sandals thumped once more. A leaf was caught in a child's hair. A little laugh drifted over the grass and disappeared, taken by the gentle current. After a while, the dust settled. The laughter settled too. Their innocence didn't pull attention, just rested with the day, like an unseen blanket unfolded on the earth. Everything was ordinary, and that was its own kind of miracle. Night will fall like that too, soft and unnoticed. Laughter gone, but its echo still safe in the dust where children played. Let the silence stretch. Let your breath settle. God is here in every simple joy and the holy hush that follows. Evening sighs its way down the hillside. Shadows gather at the threshold, long, unhurried shapes folding themselves on the earth. Inside, the day is quietly winding itself closed. I sit just out of the river's memory, dry now, hands pale from water and sun. On my lap, linen tunics, worn soft with use, smelling faintly of wild grass and smoke. The others have gone out, some to the well, one to the path by the reeds. Their voices have trailed off, joining the hush that comes before the lamps are lit. In this room it is just me, a basket and the careful, slow weight of the day. One tunic, white as the dust caught in the corners. I lift it by the shoulders and let it settle, gentle as a breath, across my knees. My hands smooth the first sleeve, then the next. A hush settles between the motions, silence as soft as the linen itself. Fold the left inward, then the right. A crease forms, deliberate and firm. There is a quiet comfort in giving shape where life has tugged and loosened. Each fold asks nothing but presence, each breath between, its own small prayer. Sometimes someone else's garment carries in its hem a story, clay by the cuff, from a morning spent beside the stones at the water. A thread snagged, green from a branch where a bird once perched. I watch my fingers move, resetting the cloth, as if smoothing out the ache of small losses, restoring order where the day had undone it. My mind drifts, not quite asleep but close. The quiet lingers in the space between my hands, between each fold, and deeper still, between each slow, even breath. I listen to the rhythm of cloth on cloth, skin on linen. The room is so still I can hear the night moving in, gentle, unhurried. Stacked together, the folded tunics become a small monument, not to work but to care. No one speaks. Even the lamps wait, unlit, as if honoring the silence between the finished things and the unfinished. I look up at the window. The sky is bruised gold, dusk pouring itself behind the hills. The only music is the hush and the soft thudding sound as I press corners into corners. Between each garment there is a space. Between that space a breath. I sense God in what is not said. The world is not wound tight, not hurried, just sorted quietly into place. I finish the last tunic, smooth it, fold it, shape it with the slow certainty of dusk. The pile is small but held steady like a memory. There are no words of thanks, but the order itself feels like gratitude. Sometimes I pause, hands resting on the finished stack, letting the silence replenish me, letting the room be full of nothing more than this. The ordinary miracle of being here, folding the day away quietly for the ones I love. Soon someone will come pick up the bundle. Feet will cross the floor, a voice will whisper good night. But for now the room belongs to the silence, to the space between my breaths, the folds between each tunic. One soft sound after another, until the night holds everything in perfect present peace. After the river, all that water, all that hush, we walked together. No hurry, no one really spoke. There was space between each step, heavy and light at the same time. Sand found the tops of our sandals. Just a little, like dust from a loaf's crust. Someone set a basket down in the shade, not a grand gesture, not really even shared on purpose. Bread, olives, some figs that had grown softer in the warmth. No one counted. No one asked who had brought what. You just sat near, shifted your feet. The leaves above let sunlight dapple the ground, a broken, gentle pattern we didn't need to explain. Bread first. I tore a piece, thick and uneven, with flour dust still clinging to the edge. The texture was soft, a little chewy, like it knew its place in a quiet meal. I pressed it between my fingers before taking a bite. Chew, swallow, sigh. Not because I was starving, just because the eating filled the silence with something friendly. Someone cracked an olive open. The sound was as soft as a bird's wing, salt and bitterness. A little oil on the finger that I licked away, hardly thinking. No one rushed through. Mouths full, we sat in what felt like endless afternoon. Chew, swallow, sigh. A small rhythm carried us like water passing over stones. The figs were last, sweet, dark, and sticky. My teeth broke the flesh, the crunch of small seeds, always just beneath the surface. Fingers messy. We traded a smile but kept it small. Not everything needed words. Chew, swallow, sigh. I thought about all we had seen that morning. Light on water, the dove silent and soft as the dust over everything. The voice not loud, not explaining, just naming what is true. No one argued. We let the quiet fill us. I watched a crumb fall, roll away on a breeze that cooled the back of my neck. Even the wind gentled itself. There was something holy in how we stayed, not needing to name it. The meal made its own mercy. Elbows touched now and then. Someone drank from a shared water skin, wiping their mouth on the back of a hand. I took another bite of bread. Chew, swallow, sigh. Let the air settle. Let the stillness spread wide. A child sat beside me, feet not quite touching the ground. She played with the end of her scarf, tracing circles into the dust. She didn't ask questions about heaven or doves or prophecy. She just watched the way olives rolled between her palms, quiet and round. I watched too. Not every holy thing makes a sound. No one worried about tomorrow. The meal asked nothing of us but to be here. Chew, swallow, sigh. Swallow again, filling the belly with something slow and safe. There is a kind of fullness in not speaking, letting hunger and peace share the same space. Someone coughed softly, wiping crumbs from their lips. The rest of us closed our eyes for a moment. Even the silence was enough. Maybe there was a prayer said, maybe not. It is hard to remember if lips moved or if the heart just stayed open for a while. I only recall the taste of bread, the salted tingle from olives, the sweet sigh that followed each bite of fig. The holiness was not in the miracle, but in the way we ate without looking away from each other, but not forcing any closeness. Chew, swallow, sigh. Time dripped like oil off the rim of an empty jar. We leaned back, shoulders touching, under the low shade. A soft laugh drifted out, not at a joke, just as a kindness, like laughter was possible, even here. Birds called far off on the other side of the river. None of us moved. There was nowhere to be. God was in the staying. The world held itself steady, and we did too. Someone ran their thumb over the crust of the loaf, picking out a last bite. Chew, slow, breathe. The meal made us smaller and safer and whole. Nothing to decide now. Even the doves in the branches seemed to pause, letting their feathers settle. A fig leaf drifted down, brushed a shoulder, was left where it landed. A little later, I wiped my fingers in the dust. Someone gathered up the empty basket, cradling it like a small child. No one was ordered to smile or speak gratitude. We stood slowly, limbs heavy with having rested. The meal was over. Chew, swallow, sigh. the stillness remained. Some things you carry with you even after you stand. The taste of bread, the hush of shared eating, the gentleness of not being hurried. God, still near, still here, like cool water on a hot day. Like a promise you do not need to repeat to believe. And as we walked away, crumbs on our robes, I felt fuller than before. Not heavy, but anchored, kept by a meal so simple, so slow, that even the river listened and answered with silence. Let this moment stretch, even this quiet is holy. The day listens with you chew, swallow, sigh. The walk home starts slow today, feet pressing soft into old dust. The river behind is quieter now, almost a memory, folded away with the spare cloth in my satchel. My toes find their way by habit, a path worn smoother with each return. Shadows stretch long over the road, not in a hurry, not trying to cross. They just exist like everything else here. The air cools, gentle on the skin, smelling faintly of water and stone. A child's laugh drifts far ahead or maybe behind. Hard to tell, the sound floats and I let it pass by, untouched. Clouds wander above me, loose and faded, slow as sheep that don't need to be gathered. The horizon blurs, colors changing by the minute, though so quietly it feels like it could take all night. One part of the sky is still blue, holding the last note of day, while beside it, pink smudges stretch and stretch, cotton pulled wide by hands you'll never see. I look up for a moment just to notice the way light finds all the open places, painting the ridges gold. But then I let my eyes drop to the gentle line ahead, the road narrowing and wide again, like breathing. No one speaks, but I hear the hush, sandals sliding, an older man clearing his throat. Someone carries a basket, just figs inside, nothing holy but somehow needed. The evening holds us. I feel it like the river's edge in the morning, only softer, less certain. Back there, the world opened for a while, water breaking and sky splitting, a dove's shadow flickering. But no one is in a hurry now to hold onto anything. Whatever happened, it rests behind us safe. We don't try to remember it too well. Clouds press slow against the softening sky. They take their time, becoming shapes without names. A boat, a lamb, maybe just a long gray reach that steadies the coming dark. Some people keep walking, heads forward, hands tucked in sleeves. I pause just once, letting my breath slow. There is nothing left to gather. The road home always feels shorter at dusk. Stones underfoot, loose and flat, mark the miles. Now and then a bit of old straw caught in the hem of my robe. The wind nudges the back of my neck, a small comfort, an invitation not to rush. Everything is gentle, nothing is waiting. I think of the dove, how quiet its wings were, how sure. Not a sign, not an argument, just presence, pure and safe as sleep. Someone sings low, without words. It fits, echoes off the warming clouds. The road curves, and all at once I can see the rooftops and smoke curling up, dark against the pearl and pink rim of evening. Home is not far now, but I wish tonight would last forever, soft as the hush that stays even after all sound has gone. The sky is still opening. The river, the dove, the morning, they live inside the gentle peace that follows every faithful step home. It begins quietly, not with shouts, not with song, but with someone crouching low and coaxing a bit of flame from a bundle of kindling. The world outside is cool and blue. The day's work drifts behind. Soft hands shelter the sputtering spark, careful and patient until the first thread of orange stirs. No one says much. No one needs to. There's the simple work of feeding the fire one slow breath after another. The rest comes on its own. Gentle warmth, orange dancing on rough stone, the hush of bodies settling close but not too close. Someone shifts, pulling a thin shawl a bit tighter. You can see their eyes catch the flicker, shadows playing on tired cheeks. No business left to finish, no plans, only quiet and the flame at center. Stories pass without words. Sometimes a nod is enough, a small smile. The fire listens to everyone. There's the soft whisper of sandals being pushed aside, the low sigh of the night preparing to settle. Let your breath match the flame, slow, easy, in and out. There's always a hush after the meal is cleared away, bowls stacked, bread wrapped in cloth for morning. Each person finds their place. You remember the dampness in the air near the river's bank that morning, how John stood, silent but never alone, eyes on the water and on those who came seeking. Some things you carry with you, tucked beside the ribs like a song nearly forgotten. But not tonight. Tonight you give those thoughts to the soft, steady burn. Someone's feet nudge a pebble near the hearth. You watch the spark leap up for a heartbeat, then fade. The world narrows to orange and gold, ember after ember weaving together in slow companionship. You don't need to know what they're all thinking. You're here, breathing together. The warmth circles out, reaching toes, elbows, chins tucked to knees. Your own eyes begin to feel heavy. You don't resist. Let the silence do its work. Let the fire hold what words cannot. A little laughter, hushed by habit, finds its way around the edge. Even the most restless hearts begin to settle, shoulders lowering, jaws unclenching, the day's cares unwinding into smoke. Someone hands you a cup of water, still cool from the jug. The taste is plain but perfect. No need to speak gratitude. No one expects anything. Still, you feel full. Listen to the steady crackle, to the drift of your own gentle breathing. Every flame is both light and rest, both hope and the permission to pause. That is enough for tonight. You remember how, long ago, the sky opened above quiet water and a dove found its way down, not like a warning, but a promise that could be carried home in ordinary hearts like yours. It is easy to forget that you saw it with your own eyes, but this fire brings back the quiet assurance, a hush that does not argue or rush. It just is, showing you how to lean into stillness. Around you, the circle fades into shadow, heads bow, knees draw near to the chest, arms rest easy on folded legs. The world contracts to this circle of warmth. The rest is darkness. You do not need to leave it, not tonight. The wind at the door is softer now, no longer carrying the worries of the world. There is no reason to hurry, no reason to speak. Here at the hearth, silence is safe. Night stretches long and gentle, pebble by pebble warming beneath the coals. Your eyes slip heavier, following the dance of flame, until it all becomes a quiet dream. The world is quiet now. Even the crickets keep their voices low. There's just enough moon shining through the gaps in old wood shutters to see by. Soft silver lying along the floor, across the folded piles of cloth, over where the sandals rest by the door. Someone moves in the room, slow, careful, tired, but not in a hurry. They carry a scroll. It doesn't feel heavy. It's just worn from being rolled, touched, set aside, unrolled again the way bread cloth is used and washed and used. They unroll it by the window where the moonlight is brightest. Not to read aloud, not to teach, not tonight. only to touch, to trace their fingers over the shapes, the gentle knots and lines that make up every holy word. The air smells like dust and pressed flax. The only sound is breathing, patient, steady, and the thin hush of finger meeting parchment. Outside, a few sheep shuffle. Inside, linen shifts quietly under a careful hand. Touch, trace, breathe, he asked for nothing and still felt full. The names of places, the old stories, are not spoken or studied. They're let be. Each letter held as if it was a small, sleeping thing. Another breath. Another gentle stroke across the curved strokes. The word feels alive in silence, like a seed resting deep under the soil, waiting for morning, trusting the night. Let this moment stretch. The world does nothing and still God is near. Finger to script, script to heart. Over and over, tracing where others have traced, 100 hands remembering, connecting past dusk to this cool night. The moon shifts. A band of light slides along the page. They move with it, slow, unfussed. Touch, trace, breathe. No grand thoughts arrive. No lesson interrupts. Just the hush of moon and skin, the steady sound of living, breathing beside the word. Holding peace, not chasing it. Letting it cover the room like a blanket, simple and necessary. Sometimes a line whispers in memory, not recited, just felt. The way water feels cold before it warms to your hands. The way bread softens as you chew. God is here in the quiet breathing, the steady tracing. Tonight the scripture sings without a voice held up to the night, shown only to the moon. If even a single word is missed, it's all right. Nothing is lost. The ribbon of moonlight runs back and forth over the scroll, and every pass feels like both return and hope. Nothing to do but stay. Breath slows. Fingers rest. The scroll isn't closed yet, just waiting, just being. The heart knows when it's time. Sometimes the most holy thing you can do is nothing but touch what you love and let the night hold you. Touch, trace, breathe tonight. In the quiet house, everyone else is either turning down lamps or folding a blanket for morning. Most days end this way, simple, small. It's easy to miss what settles in rooms at dusk, easy to forget how silence gathers around you like another shawl. One of the younger men kneels by the wall, knees pressed into packed earth. He doesn't say anything. Hands rest on his lap, open, not reaching, not closing into fists, just there. Maybe he's listening. Maybe he's just tired. Either way, the room lets him be. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Inhale long, exhale longer. Let the silence settle. Some nights, someone might whisper a psalm or hum a song from home. But not tonight. The air tastes like river water and olive pits, and the only movement comes from the shutter, left cracked. A soft breeze tugs at the fabric beside him, cool and gentle, like the hem of a robe passing by. It moves across the clay floor, then up, and you can almost hear it breathing with you. Let this moment stretch. No one notices, really. Pots from supper sit cooling, bread gone hard at the edges. A sandal left beside a stool. The low lamp flickers, painting just enough shape to know you're not alone. The night listens with you. That's the thing about silent prayers. They don't ask much. They come quietly, offering themselves like a bowl of water set near your bed. Inhale long, exhale longer. Silence keeps speaking. He doesn't shift for a while. His eyes stay soft, not closed, but looking at nothing. There's no sound but his breath and the way the wind makes the window sigh. It isn't emptiness. The room just feels filled somehow. not with words but with something steady, as if the very air can hold you up. Even this silence is holy. He might think of the river or nothing at all. Sometimes prayer is just being close, kneeling, without words. The way a rock sits beside water. The breeze stirs again, cool on his cheek, like a whisper that says what's true. You are here. You are held. He rises quietly, folds his blanket, crosses the floor so lightly dust does not rise. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. In the hush, in the ordinary, God draws near, nothing to prove, nothing to fix, just presence, slow and certain as sleep approaching. Inhale long, exhale longer. Let this rest stay with you. It was a plain end to a plain day. The river's sound faded behind us, folded up in the quiet evening. The water's shine was gone now, swapped for the dull blue of dusk. My hands were still a little wet. I dried them on the edge of my mat. No one had much left to say. The talk was over, replaced by the sound of sandals leaving the sand. Most everyone had gone, their shapes like soft shadows heading toward home and bread and sleep. I took my time, not hurrying. There wasn't anywhere to be but here. The ground was still warm from earlier sun. I laid my mat out, smoothing the corners flat, soft palm against stiff weave. The simple, straight work of it, unrolling, pressing, aligning, was good. Just work for my hands. The trees above didn't rustle much tonight. Even the birds seemed to settle in other dreams. Over by the fire, someone yawned, covering their mouth. A few stayed close, faces turned gentle in the firelight, not talking but just being nearby. There was a cup passed from palm to palm, water cool and a little smoky. I took a sip, swallowing slow. No hurry, nowhere else calling me. I folded my outer robe and set it at my side, ready for cool air later. The day did not end with any noise. Instead, it folded in, breath by breath, into something safe. One lamp burned on the stone step. Its light was small, soft as a fingertip, reaching just far enough to see the smooth patch of dirt by my toes. The flame wobbled in the breeze but did not go out. Someone tucked a sandal beneath their head. Another shifted, settling knees and elbows and feet until they found their spot. The hush crept in slow, like sand settling after a wave. No one tried to hold on to it. This is just how it happened every night, slow, simple, restful. The last hint of sun faded. For a moment, the sky held onto that old gray blue, then let it go. I closed my eyes for a bit, not really thinking, just letting the day rest without pushing it away. All the busy things had ended. No bread to bake, no river to cross. Just breath and dark and the sound of small animals far off in the reeds. I heard someone sigh. The wind shifted. A moth fluttered, slow, near my ear, then kept going. No one chased it. It was just another visitor to this waiting silence. I pulled my knees up, wrapping arms around my shins. Breathing in, I noticed how quiet everything felt, how the quiet wasn't empty but full. Every small sound belonged. The stick snapping, the distant splash, a cough, then stillness again. Someone's voice in the dark, very soft, whispered a prayer. Short, simple words. Nothing to prove, just a little thread between heart and God. "Thank you for this day," said the voice, almost lost in the night. Another voice added, "Keep us safe." Someone else only breathed the word peace. No one commented. No one led. We fell quiet again, each person listening in their own way, maybe praying, maybe only resting. My prayer came as a thought, not a sentence. just the feeling of letting go. I saw the river again in my mind, folding into dark, cool water, slow and steady, the same way every day. I hoped that God was near, near in a way you could not see, but only feel when you breathe out and the air feels softer than before a lampwick flickered lower. Its light was almost gone. Someone nudged it with a stick, pushed it back into oil, and it glowed steady for just a moment longer. There was no reason to rush bedtime. Night happens on its own. We only let it come and trust the dark to hold us somehow. One by one, voices faded away, like lines drawn in sand washed gently invisible. The prayer was not special. It was not long. No one wrote it down. Still, I felt God listening, the way a friend listens quietly from the other side of a wall. I let myself feel the comfort in that, not because of anything I did, but just because God makes rest holy. All the men and women on their mats, the slow breaths beside me, made a space big enough for sleep to come in. I felt safe, not because nothing bad could ever happen, but because something bigger was present, soft, quiet, large as any sky. My eyes shut. The dark felt good on my eyelids. I could hear my own pulse, slow and even. Breathing was easy, like the river, like the clouds, like bread rising under a towel while the house is still. There is nothing more I need to do, nothing more anyone needs from me. My hands are clean. My mat is spread. My heart for tonight is untroubled. Even if fears try to whisper from far corners, they cannot climb all the way into this safe, sleepy circle. I think of how the day began. The crowded river, wet sand, the sound of strangers hoping. I think of how the day ended. Sand rubbed from tired feet, mats put down, the hush of people no longer talking. Holy things do not shout. Even miracles keep their distance, letting you drift, letting you rest. I am small, and the world is large, and the night is quiet, and God does not ask for anything more than just this: to be here, breathing, near, open. Under the hush of the lamp's last glow, I remember stillness holds me. I am not lost. God knows my breath. I am known. God walks slowly too. The night is gentle. Grace is with me even when it is quiet. I am watched over not as a crowd but as a person here. I am loved without effort. Even in the hush, even in the dark, it is enough. Amen, amen, amen.